Well, we have a lot to talk about. New polling. All sorts of new polling coming out. The most important polling, of course, being the new dsaDance poll on the ceasefire. And let me tell you, I want to thank Mehdi Hassan for creating dsaDance because this poll is comical in how much it proves that I was right. The analysis that we provide on Twitch, me, Hassan, and others, is legitimately far superior to any of the analysis you get on mainstream media. And lo and behold, the polling says if she does a ceasefire, she's going to win a lot more votes, especially among the people that voted for Biden in 2020, but want to vote third party this time around. Wow. She's also started to release some of her economic plan, which may include attempts to do sectoral bargaining, a actually left-wing position, but left-wing in a way that it hasn't been talked about for years and poisoned, which is pretty incredible. There's been other polling showing that Harris is making headway in the double hater category, which I told you is the most important category of voters. It's like all the analysis I've been doing for the better part of 6 months is now suddenly just being accepted by mainstream. Suddenly, like, truth is allowed to leak in. It's actually incredible.
Mike. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. But your name won't start changing your ways.
Every day here on CNN's flagship morning show, we are trying to lay out deep insight in the major historic shifts in this election. CNN senior data reporter.
I think one of the things that's really interesting is that there is this like cohort of scumbag centrists, especially traditional K-Hive, who want to cause infighting with the left, but Harris just keeps making good decisions and not punching left. You know, the one thing I would say about Harris's campaign so far is she isn't punching left at all. And although she has abandoned some positions that I think she should not have abandoned, namely banning fracking and Medicare for all, she largely has tacked toward the left for the policies that she has talked about. And so Kamala Harris has like really dumb supporters who are trying to fuck her up. And it's really, really annoying. Like, the idea of like attacking ceasefire protesters and racializing it, which took place on TikTok and Twitter, is not something that Harris is trying to do. So it's this very weird infighting shit that her supporters are doing, but yet she and her campaign have no desire to do. It's very weird shit. It's like these people just want to fight the left, even though their candidate isn't doing that. It's odd.
Harry Etten is here with what might be, or up until this point, was one of the key, if not the key voting bloc in this election, the so-called double haters, people who didn't like either Donald Trump.
Just need to show the bad faith losers of this clip. I want to take this opportunity to remember the racist murder of George Floyd.
العنصري لجورج فلويد. جورج فلويد قتل في مثل هذه الأيام نتيجة منهجية عنصرية موجودة لدى أشخاص. اليوم هذه العنصرية التي قتل بها جورج فلويد يمارسها الاحتلال ضد أهلنا في القدس, ضد أهلنا في الشيخ جراح, ضد أهلنا في الضفة الغربية بحرق أطفالنا, وضد أهل قطاع غزة من خلال الحصار والقتل والتجويع. إحنا يجب أن يضع العالم الحر وشباب العالم الحر كله حدا لهذه الجرائم.
Hamas doesn't care about black people, and then Hamas leader talks about George Floyd's murder. Like this account right here, chat, is what I'm talking about. I don't think this is a real photo. I don't think this guy's a real person. You know, legitimately, every single post this motherfucker makes is like trying to cause infighting. It's so weird. It's so cringe. It's like every single one. It's like, Jill Stein, what are you talking about, man? It's 2024. 2024. What are you doing? Why does supporting Palestine have to come at the detriment to me and my people? It doesn't. That's exactly the point, you dumb fuck. What are you talking about? It would help you Like, if Kamala Harris comes out, and we're going to prove this, if Kamala Harris comes out in favor of a ceasefire, that helps her. And that helps you. It's so odd.
President Biden, what's happening with them?
Yeah, all right. So let's take a look at double haters. As you pointed out, these are folks who dislike Joe Biden as well as Donald Trump. And I want you to look at their voting patterns, who they want for president. Now, let's go back to June. What we saw was 28% of those folks were going for Joe Biden compared to 19% who said they were going for Donald Trump. Now that Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee, look at her support among them. Look at this. 53% say Kamala Harris. Look at that jump. That's a jump of 25 points. Donald Trump has gone in the other direction, down to 11 points. And now we're looking at, what is that, John? That is a 42-point advantage among the folks who dislike Joe Biden and Donald Trump for Kamala Harris compared to just that 9-point advantage that Joe Biden had back in June.
This, and as I said, who is this? This is the left-wingers coming home. These are left-wingers, young people, progressives coming home to Harris because of the Walls pick, because of some policies she's making, because she's not punching left. This is all I've said, is if you run a center-left campaign where you don't have to give the left everything they want, but you have to actually believe in fucking policies.
Of course, it's a substantial portion of the electorate. Before Kamala Harris got in, this was going to be the group that was going to determine one way or another, and it may still be. And if it is, Kamala Harris has this massive advantage over this very key block in the electorate.
I just want to point out, again, what we have seen in the last few weeks are these big shifts in polling you don't normally see. Right now, at least. But that's a giant increase in no time.
That is a giant increase in no time.
And by the way, chat, how long have I been talking about double haters? As a double hater, I have a suggestion. He should drop out. He should be replaced by a candidate that will oppose Israel's genocide, support actual court reform to unpack the Supreme Court, and will actually promise real policy outcomes that young people demand. Good luck. I was completely and utterly correct.
Out picking a nominee who's actually pretty close to having an even net favorability rating that is favorable minus unfavorable is a pretty good thing as opposed to one that has a net negative favorability as Joe Biden
All right, what more do we know about some of these people, these double haters, I had to be careful how I said that, who have shifted their preference?
Yeah, so, who are these double haters who have shifted their preference? This is, again, a key group of voters. These are people who somewhat disapprove of Joe Biden's job as president, somewhat disapprove, and this is in the key battleground states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Look at the advantage that Kamala Harris has with this group. Look at this. She's at 55%. Donald Trump is just at 36%. And this was a key block of voters back in the 2022 midterms. Normally, when you see a president with a disapproval rating well north of 50%, you would think his party was in major trouble. But Democrats actually won that block by 4 points in a close race for the House. Democrats did. Look at Kamala Harris's advantage now, though. It's 19 points, well more than that 4 points that the House Democrats had back in 2022. And so, again,
people who somewhat disapprove of Biden are going to Harris.
Wondering how is it that Kamala Harris is doing so well despite the fact that Joe Biden is so unpopular? It's because those people who are lukewarm on him, they don't like him, but they don't hate him. They are going in heavy numbers for Kamala Harris in those key battleground states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
So there's this bizarre story this morning that we probably should be talking about more, which is that RFK Jr., the New York Times reporting, has been doing, the Post reporting, has been doing outreach to the Harris campaign, wanting the two to meet. Maybe he would endorse her in return for a job. That aside,
you can't do that. That's illegal.
Where have RFK Jr.'s voters, so far as they exist, been going the last few weeks?
Yeah, that is truly a bizarre campaign. And, we spoke about this earlier. 2 weeks ago, we noted that RFK Jr.'s support was falling through the floor. And the question is, who are his voters going to? So these are people who supported RFK Jr. in July and now back. Look at this. 39% of those who backed RFK Jr. in July are now backing Kamala Harris, way more than the 20% who are backing Donald Trump. Now, he's still getting 39%, but if you're only holding on to 2/5 of your support from July, you're falling to the floor, which RFK Jr. is doing. But the key nugget here is Kamala Harris is picking up a slew of those voters who were disaffected, who said they were going to vote for third party. They're no longer voting for third party. By a 2-to-1 margin, they're voting for, say they're going to vote for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. And that is a big reason why in that Pew Research Center.
Harris is picking up disaffected voters. Oh, my God. Ah! I want to say this. I am mentally strong enough to understand that Kamala Harris isn't the worst of K-Hive, but I worry that other people aren't, and they might associate her with the dumbest conservative supporters of Kamala Harris. Dumb K-Hivers are not representative of who she's being as a candidate. And they need to knock it off. And honestly, I think it would be a good move for the Harris campaign to come out and tell her voters, her supporters of K-Hive, to knock it off and attack Republicans. Because, like, legitimately it's damaging to her. And they're so stupid.
Poll that came out yesterday, Harris was up by 1 as opposed to Joe Biden being down by 4 back in the month of July.
Democrats and independents were asked, and this is all you have it, chat. Democrats and independents were asked, are you more or less likely to support a Democratic nominee who pledges to withhold weapons to Israel? PA, 34% more likely, 7% less likely. Georgia, 39% more likely, 5% less likely. Arizona, 35% more likely versus 5% less likely. Again, a Democratic nominee who pledges to withhold weapons, not even get a ceasefire. Joe Biden secured ceasefire. If Joe Biden were to secure a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, would that make you more or less likely to vote for the Democratic nominee? Or would it not make any difference? 44% more likely, 2% less likely. If the Democratic nominee were to pledge to withhold additional weapons to Israel for committing human rights abuses against Palestinian civilians, would you make it more or less likely to vote for the Democratic nominee, or would it not make any difference? More likely to vote, 34%. These are huge. There you have it, chat. Okay, so here it is, chat. New poll suggests Gaza ceasefire and arms embargo would help Dems with swing state voters. Again, duh. Mike was right. Hassan was right. Wow, it looks like our analysis is a quadrillion times fucking better than anything you get on mainstream media. A significant share of Democrats and independent voters in pivotal swing states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, are more likely to vote for the Democratic presidential nominee if said nominee pledges to support an arms embargo to Israel and if President Joe Biden secures a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. These findings come in new polling commissioned by the Institute for Middle East Understanding Policy Project, conducted by polling firm YouGov. The results were particularly stark when looking at responses by those who voted for Biden in 2020 are currently undecided. In Pennsylvania, 57% of such voters said they'd be more likely to support the Democratic nominee if they pledged to withhold additional weapons to Israel for committing human rights abuses. In Arizona, 44% said the same. In Georgia, 34% said so. The polling clearly shows that if Democrats want Vice President Harris to be the strongest nominee possible going into November, then they should be demanding that President Biden stop the flow of weapons to Israel and secure a permanent ceasefire immediately. Not only are these policies popular, but they actually move voters from the undecided or not voting column and into the Democrats column in the states Democrats need to win. And there you have it. There you fucking have it. Is that how low we have become? Push for ceasefire and arms embargo because it helps with the election? If that's what it takes, who cares? Who fucking cares? I'll use any argument to stop the genocide. I will use any argument if it moves the needle and stops the genocide. What the fuck are you talking about? And if threatening these stupid libs at an election is what it takes, then so be it. But also, that's a constructive way of saying it. By a 42-point margin, voters believe that using antitrust to enforce existing laws against price gouging and price fixing will lower inflation. Reducing the federal deficit will decrease inflation, which is true, because all of our consumption will go down. So that would mean that our economy contracts. So contracting the economy, making the economy worse will lower inflation. True. Approving more permits for domestic oil and gas drilling. No, because that will just open us up to we have oil exports, so we're not going to move the needle on oil production at the global level enough to change fucking oil prices. So that's not true. Blocking Chinese firms from investing in American financial markets. I don't see how financial markets going to decrease inflation. That's nonsensical. Expanding Social Security benefits, decrease inflation. Okay. Tariffing goods from China, decreasing inflation. So in other words, this is just, do you like this bill?
No idea who Mike is.
Mike. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. But you may want to start changing your ways. Change new ways. We're changing your